Hey, this is Trevor, my former teacher. Coming here for about 2 months. And last week was their first time going into the coffee hour. We're like, okay, we're comfortable enough to venture in. And I told them we're working with like, dude, Trevor, great, he comes here. I was like, oh, I hope I see him. Yeah, they said so. Awesome. Oh, this is a big part of why I was like, I think this is the right place for us. It's not the best. We always look to that's not the only just finished my doctoral. Congratulations. Yeah, just did that thing. Yeah, thank you. It's been tabletop role playing. So I'm thinking I'm learning about the tabletop games and how to use those in classroom, educational, pedagogical. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, thank you. Bringing all of my passions together. Good. It's good. 10 years. Oh.
Good morning. Welcome to Mainline Unitarian Church. I'm Barbara Colton and a member of the Board of Trustees. Happy Easter.
Happy Easter.
And welcome to all of you here. It's wonderful to see everybody here, and we're delighted to have all of you online joining us as well. We're in this beautiful season where the brown of winter is turning to green. Trees are budding, flowers are pushing through the soil, and light is stretching further every day, reminding us that new beginnings and renewal are happening all around us. However you find yourself this morning, full of joy, carrying a few burdens, or maybe just wishing for one more cup of coffee, you're welcome here. You're welcome in this place to be part of a community alive with energy, hope, renewal, and possibilities. And speaking of coffee, we hope you'll join us after the service across the hall for a warm cup, warm conversation, and maybe even some goodies from the Easter egg hunt. You will see some of the upcoming events in the back of your order of service, but I also want to remind you to please check the website because there's so much unfolding here, and you'll have a chance to see what's coming up in the weeks ahead. A quick mention that Drew Hadlock is in the atrium with information about Unirondac, so you can check him out on the table there. And on to leading our service today is our senior minister, Reverend John Morehouse, our music director, David Brown, on violin today, Jody Brown on piano, and we have a multi-generational choir as well, and our community orchestra. So we have a full onslaught for music today, and we have a guest vocalist, Suhani Shah. Welcome. Our worship associate is Debbie McKnight, and our great thanks to our media team as well. Now let's settle in for worship and say our mission statement together. Together, we transform lives through love, service, and our welcoming faith.
To worship
respect of intelligent people, and the affection of children,
and the affection of children,
and the affection of children. This is who has succeeded. This is who has succeeded. To know even one life has been easier. To know even one life has been easier. To know even one life has been easier. Because you live, because you live, you live, you live, you live, you live. Because you
Our chalice lighting today, O Light of Life, by Sam Trumbore. O Light of Life, be kindled again in our hearts as we meet together this morning to celebrate the joy of human community, seeking a wholeness that extends beyond ourselves. Please stand as you can, in body or spirit, to sing hymn number 361, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In.
With spirit. That was great, everyone. Thank you. Welcome on this Easter morning. It's so good to see so many of you here today. We've changed up the order of service a little bit because, well, the bunnies have been busy. But we're going to begin with a story. In the dark, in the dark, in the deep, deep dark, a speck floated invisible as thought, as weighty as God. There was yet no time, there was yet no space, no up, no down, no edge, no center. No earth with soaring hawks or scuttling beetles, trees reaching for the sky. There was no sky, no you, no me, only the speck waiting and waiting. And then the beginning of all the beginnings, and it went bang! And in a trillionth of a second, our universe was born. A cloud of gas unfolded, unfurled, and zigged and zagged, and stretched and collided and expanded, and bits bumped and gathered and fused. And throughout the cosmos, stars caught fire, trillions of stars, but still no planets to attend the stars. And if no planets, then no oceans, no mountains, no hippopotami, no violets blooming in shady wood, no crickets singing to the night, no day, no night. The stars burned, and they burned so long and so hot that some of them exploded, flinging stardust everywhere. And the ash of those dying stars gathered into planets, and the planets circled other stars, but still no bluebirds, no butterflies, still no snails, no giraffes, still no you and no me. The planet closest to their star stayed very hot. The ones far away grew very cold. But one lucky planet, a fragile blue ball we call Earth, was neither too far nor too near. It circled its yellow star, the one we call the sun, at just the right distance and with just the right tilt to be sometimes warm and sometimes cool. Perfect for turning the starry stuff into mitochondria, jellyfish and spiders, and into ferns and sharks, into daisies and galloping horses, and again, starburst gave birth to stardust. Dinosaurs lived and died and made great room for humans, our great-great-great-great-great-grandparents, and all before them lived and died in making room for more and more children. And then one day, in the deep, deep dark, another speck floated, invisible as dreams, as special as love. Waiting, dividing, changing, growing until last, you burst into the world. You took a big breath of the same air once breathed by woolly mammoths. You cried tears that were once salty seas, your hair once the carbon in a leaf. You and the velvet moss and the caterpillars and the lions, you and the singing whales and the larks and the frogs. You and me, loving you, all of us, the stuff of stars. That's our story, and now the offering.
As he said, we changed up a little bit. Okay. Each month, we donate half of our collection to a worthy organization in need. The recipient of MLUC's offering outreach for April is the Blessing Warehouse, a registered 501c3 nonprofit organization founded in 2013 to provide free clothing and services to people in need, as well as housing in Montgomery County. Their story began in the back lot of the Eternal Life Christian Center in Norristown. There, they refurbished the garage, and filled it with donated clothing. Every week, people from the community came to pick out garments they needed. In the years since then, the Blessing Shop has grown to a 7,000 square foot warehouse, housing over 10,000 articles of clothing. But the mission is the same: to help those most in need. Men, women, and children of all sizes are welcome and able to shop in a store-like atmosphere that is bright, organized, and welcoming. The organization aligns with UU principles supporting the worth and dignity of all people. To make a cashless donation, whether watching remotely or from here in the sanctuary, please follow the instructions on the screen or in the inside page of the order of service. The offering will now be gratefully received. Will the ushers please come forward?
Well, I heard tell that we had a special visitor coming in the door. Let me see. Who might that be? Oh! I would like the kids to follow the bunny out for the egg hunt. Let's sing them out, or play a song out. Bunny, I think you are the only ones who can go out in peace and do Peter Cottontail in the same tune. Thank you.
At this time in the service, it is our custom to share personal joys, sorrows, and concerns to be acknowledged by our loving community. Together, we receive and respond to each joy or sorrow by lighting a candle and saying, "We hold you in our hearts." Margot Wirt says her grandfather, John Howard Wirt Sr. passed away on Saturday morning at the age of 89. The family is heartbroken, but takes some joy from the fact that they were able to have his whole family with him over this past Christmas. He was a philanthropic giant in his communities, Bloomfield Hills and Grand Rapids, Michigan, as well as a loving parent, grandparent, great-grandparent, and friend. He will be dearly missed by all who knew him. For Margot and the Wirt family, we hold you in our hearts. James and Jeanette Wheeler are delighted to say that their son Rob, dedicated at MLUC 55 years ago, has just received a nice 5-year NIH grant. Given the current administration's priorities, however, they are concerned that the date of the announcement was April 1st. For James, Jeanette, and Rob, we hold you in our hearts. And let us light one more candle for those of us with joys or sorrows too deep to say out loud at this time. We hold you in our hearts. Okay. Today's reading is called Don't Hesitate by Mary Oliver. If you suddenly and unexpectedly feel joy, don't hesitate. Give into it. There are plenty of lives and whole towns destroyed or about to be. We are not wise and not very often kind, and much can never be redeemed. Still, life has some possibility left. Perhaps this is its way of fighting back. And sometimes something happens better than all the riches or power in the world. It could be anything, but very likely you notice it in the instant when love begins. Anyway, that's often the case. Anyway, whatever it is, don't be afraid of its plenty. Joy is not made to be a crumb. Please join me now for a moment of silence. For a moment of silence.
Thank you, Shahani. That was fantastic. It was beautiful. Thank you for sharing your gift with us. And happy Easter, everyone. Happy Easter, you all. In times that are so difficult and hard for us to imagine rebirth of any kind other than the spring, which always reminds us because nature never forgets. Roberta Bundy had just started teaching at Chandler Theological School in Atlanta. Her own life up to that point had not been easy. She'd been brought up by a secularly minded father who abused her and her Southern Baptist mother who ignored her, and Roberta had to reconcile a life of abuse and hell and damnation with her longing for love and compassion. She had finally broken through the abuse after many years of therapy, went to graduate school, started a family, and now had this new professorship. She and her husband attended an ecumenical dinner church, sort of a New Age phenomena that people meet over dinner and break the bread and drink the wine. One day, one of her dear friends called her to say that her son Evan had been in a motorcycle accident. It had been on Good Friday. Evan had been estranged from his parents for some years, preferring the company of the hard-drinking and drugging motorcycle crew that he was with. That said, Evan was not drinking and was wearing his helmet when he was hit by a drunk driver head-on. Roberta, who had a daughter about Evan's age, rushed to Grady Hospital in Atlanta. Grady is a large, complex public hospital with Atlanta's only level 1 trauma unit. When Roberta arrived, she found Evan's parents, Nicole and John, in the waiting room right off the ICU. And they were surrounded by other people from their church who were holding them. Evan was alive, but clearly in grave danger. Roberta looked around the drab waiting room with its chipped green paint and the coffee machine in the corner. And then she noticed another group in the room with them, Evan's friends, about 6 of them, all wearing leather and piercings and spiked hair. They were there to keep vigil as well. Roberta didn't want to like these people. In fact, despite priding herself on being a progressive Christian, she didn't want to like the people. They represented all the heartache that Evan's parents had gone through, the emails and the phone calls unanswered, the holidays missed, the worry that their 21-year-old son would end up just like this. And the more Roberta looked at them huddled quietly in the corner, the more she felt her heart seized upon the darkness of the moment. Roberta finally had her chance to go in and see Evan. He was on life support. His body was bruised and broken. She found herself staring at his thick black hair and wishing it could save him now. After several hours late into the night, the doctor finally came. He was young and not very experienced in how to talk with a family in this kind of a crisis. And so he finally just blurted out the truth. Evan is in very serious condition, and even if he survives, he's not likely to regain consciousness. I'm afraid there isn't much to do, the doctor said. And with that, the room exploded into tears. Over the course of the next 12 hours, more and more friends of family and the friends of Evan started to arrive, and they brought food and flowers, and someone brought a guitar, and the staff moved the entire group to a big conference room down the hall. As the two groups became one, they were still separated by age and faith and circumstances, but they were becoming a one. They were becoming a we. Evan's friends would go in and see him, and they too would come out crying and broken. Evan, it turned out, as the friends explained to the others who were there, took care of many of them. He was the one who brought food when it was needed. He was the one who helped them get help with their addictions and get to drug rehab. Evan was clearly the center of that community. And clearly his loving heart had found its way into a home that was also grieving along with his parents. As this new community began to take shape in that large conference room, someone suggested we should have a prayer circle, and so the 40 or so of them, some clad in leather and others in homespun vests, made a circle and suggested that Roberta, since she was the religious professional in the room, should lead the prayer. It did not escape her that this was after midnight on Good Friday at this point, now into the dark day of Saturday. And she did her best to ask for strength and love, and yes, even a miracle to bring Evan back. Through her tears, she could see the new community, those who were so different, holding hands and singing to an out-of-tune guitar, all of them the stuff of stars. Easter is a layered holiday. It is often connected in some way or other with Jewish Passover, but the actual roots of Easter go back to pagan beginnings. This is sometimes a shock for my Christian friends. Easter is actually named for Oistra, the Celtic goddess of spring. It's a fertility holiday. Thus the eggs and the bunnies and the lambs and all that. You know what that all means. Now, not all UUs get Easter right either, I think. I think specifically of a young girl in a class, a preschool class, who was asked, at one point her class was asked, well, what is this holiday coming up? What's Easter about? And one little kid raised his hand and said, is that with the fireworks? And no, that's the 4th of July. And another kid raised his hand and said, well, what about the turkey? Well, sometimes there's turkey, but no, you're thinking of Thanksgiving. And then finally, a little UU girl raises her hand. She goes, I know. The teacher says, oh, okay. What is it? She said, well, it's when Jesus died and he was laid in the tomb. And then after 3 days, the stone was rolled away and he walked out. And if he saw his shadow, there'd be 6 more weeks of winter. So it's a complicated day. But it's a powerful day. It's a powerful day because in the story, in the Christian story, Jesus' death is first seen as a defeat. I mean, after all, it was a crucifixion, one of the most brutal ways that the Roman imperial world had to keep order. Only political prisoners and those who were insurrectionists would be nailed to a cross. And when Jesus was condemned by Pilate to death, it may not have been a trial at all, he was nailed to the cross, and all his male disciples fled for the hills because they thought they would get caught and charged as insurrectionists. Only the women stayed. Of course, the women stayed, right? The women stayed there in sight of the cross, Mary, his mother, and Mary Magdalene, his favorite disciple. At the very end of his life, according to the Gospel of Mark, he says, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, my God, why have you forsaken me? It's a heartbreak of astonishing depth if you think about it. Here he was supposed to be the Messiah, the anointed one who was going to make the first last and the last first and bring a revolution to this small heartland of Judaism under the yoke of Roman occupation. What happened? What happened, the disciples had asked themselves. Where had our God gone? It was about the 3rd century when the early Christian church took this pagan holiday of Oistra and laid the Easter story on top of it, closely connected but not always overlaying the Passover story, because the Passover story in Judaism is closely connected to Jesus. Jesus was, after all, a Jew. He was a Jew trying to reform Judaism, not start Christianity. That's something that happens later. Christos, the anointed one in the Christian story, is the one who is supposed to come back. And many thought they did see him on the road to Emmaus, on the road. Later, they thought they saw the Jesus who had died come back to life. Now, this is all part of a great Jewish tradition, which is known as Midrash. Midrash is a way of interpreting stories and reinterpreting them in ways that make sense in life. Because Jesus dying on a cross or on a tree is also foretold of the great prophet Isaiah in the Hebrew Bible. The prophet who was said to suffer for his people and died and would return. So a lot of the interpretation, said the early Jewish teachers, could actually be that Jesus was supposed to be the second Isaiah. But we don't know what happened. We may never know what happened. There's enough history to say that Jesus was actually a person who lived and died. But beyond that, it is lost to the mists of time. Crucified criminals were usually not laid in a tomb. They were probably thrown in a common grave. And perhaps that's where Mary Magdalene has that line in Mark where she says, "They have taken my Lord, and I do not know where they have laid him." The story of the tomb is quite powerful. Far from being a Christian event to glorify the death, it was the Jewish take again on that old story of the tomb being the place from which we rise again in life, not in death, in life. And the cross and his death and the stone and the tomb, these are all metaphors for life, great truths in life. They speak of the unmistakable suffering that we all feel, the hope we have right now for a better tomorrow. The spirit that carries us onward despite all the odds. We die, or some part of our life dies, and we are placed in a tomb of sorts, a time from which we must reemerge in life. Perhaps that's happening to you now. Perhaps you feel as if you are in the tomb. But friends, that life exists on this small blue planet, which the astronauts just saw a couple of days ago, in this rather ordinary solar system, at the edge of a rather ordinary galaxy, one of billions of galaxies. This, for me, is a constant reminder that life may be resurrection itself. The possibility of it may actually exist beyond this planet. Because life can, if it needs to, always find a way. Maybe that's the story of rebirth we should be thinking about as well. I told that children's story to remind ourselves that we are but a speck on the universe's horizon, and we are but stardust. The possibility that life exists here and perhaps elsewhere is, I think, another resurrection of a sort. I'm convinced that we're not the only intelligent species in the universe. Now, I don't know why they haven't made contact with us, can't tell you. Maybe they're waiting until we're a little more baked, I don't know. Maybe they're waiting till we get over this adolescent stage of ours with the war and all that. Maybe they can't get to us. But I do think that there's other life. The fact that there are billions and billions of stars with billions of planets orbiting the stars, there's got to be a few thousand stars that are in the Goldilocks zone just like us. And that's just carbon-based life forms. What if it didn't look like us at all? This is where I think science fiction can tell a different story about resurrection. Some of my friends this week were wondering how in the world I'm going to take the stuff of stars and touch it into this Easter story. Well, this is it, friends. This is how I think we're going to do it. Because good science fiction is the story of resurrection. This is where, as science writer Jamie Green says, science fiction can be more than entertainment. It's a generative act, she says, that creates new possibilities of life beyond Earth, which might be valid and potent as anything we can conjure up in a lab. She said that through fiction, we move beyond the likelihoods and the binary outcomes to look instead to what our imaginations could find with the limitless possibilities of worlds. What would it look like if we had contact within the next 100 years? How would that change our world? Consider that possibility this Easter as well. I believe in all kinds of resurrections, friends. They happen all the time. They don't have to be Jesus walking out of a tomb or flying out of a tomb or appearing to his disciples later. It could be that, but it could be other things. And where I find science fiction so important is because we want to know if we matter. We want to know what our existence means. Life on another world would give us context, a foil, a richer way of understanding ourselves, right? We search and listen and calculate the odds, but ultimately we can only speculate what will fit into the galactic picture. But through it all, friends, through it all, our visions, perhaps of alien worlds, are reflections of ourselves arising from our dreams and our hopes for a better world. In the meantime, All of us here can still experience a rebirth, the possibility of life anew. Life, observed an old friend of mine, is the tomb itself. There's finitude here. We're surrounded by it. The Buddha said life is attachment, and with that comes sorrow. Not always suffering, which is how it is often translated, but I think sorrow because of the expectations we have for life, which almost never come out the way we think they're going to come out. We're always maybe a little surprised, maybe a little disappointed, maybe a little bit of both. But what would it mean if we believed in the possibility of life again, even in our own life, even in these times? Think about the directions your life took when you had a failing of one sort or another. Not always, but the death of a loved one, a divorce, losing your job. The good news is, I think each of us has an Easter that waits for us. It's not reserved just for the holy or even the courageous. Each one of us has that power of life within us, because one of us today is feeling the pain of separation. Someone is struggling with the demons of addiction. Someone is feeling numb after seasons of meaningless labor. Some of us are absolutely horrified by what's happening in the world. It's hard. It's hard to walk out of the tomb sometimes, because sometimes it's easier to stay in the tomb, because at least it's familiar, right? There's so many stones, to use the metaphor, that were placed over the tomb that we have to roll away the stones of life's choices, where sometimes we feel powerless to move. The stone of fear, a marriage that seems stuck while others have suggested we might get it going again, but we're not sure how because we're dealing with the stone of control, or we feel anger because of something someone said long ago, and we want to forgive, but we don't know how because we have the stone of anger before us, and we need to make a decision, but what if we make the wrong one? The stone of doubt. But even when these stones are rolled away, we might stay in the tomb for a while until the sunlight beckons us out, or until we have the courage to walk out. Behaviors, even unhealthy ones, are part of our comfort. And I have no illusions, my friends, that the times we're living in are challenging beyond all measure. I know that Easter has a lot more to do with bunny rabbits and daffodils. I know that there's a spirit within you that wants to walk away. I know that you want to be in the sunshine. You want to have your time to be reborn. It takes trust, because trust is the leap into the unknown. Trust doesn't always mean the best outcome, but trust often means a better outcome than you might have hoped. The true Easter story, the true Easter message, is that even facing death, we can find hope and possibility, perhaps not for our lives, but for those lives that we have touched and we have become immortal in the lives that follow us. When Jesus gathered his disciples on Maundy Thursday at the Last Supper, and he broke the bread and said, "Eat of this, my body," and held the wine and said, "Drink of this, my blood," it wasn't cannibalism. He was talking about the communion of all human souls that want to continue to live on even after death. And I have said for years in memorial services that the truest immortality we have is how we have touched other people. And that's also the Easter story. Trust calls us out of the empty tomb, across the stars, and out of our finitude into the possibility of life again. Easter Sunday dawned in Atlanta, gray and cold. Evan's parents were clearly exhausted. Family members and friends, both the parents and Evan's own clan, had been coming into that large conference room for almost 40 hours. It had been a dark vigil, but powerful healing had also occurred as his parents learned of this other community, his other life. Evan's life was being held together by medicine, but his life with all his friends had been the true miracle. Evan would die, of course, because there wasn't going to be that kind of Easter miracle. But all those who sat vigil with Evan came out renewed. As Paul said, All of us are worthy of divine love, neither Jew nor Gentile, neither free nor slave, neither man nor woman. Evan's parents, when they made the decision to pull the plug, knew that he was not going to be coming back in this life, but living on in those he had touched. Roberta held one last prayer circle of those who remained. It was there that she understood that his life had not been in vain, that his death was the Easter story. He had been estranged but found. Literally staunch and stuffy, hugging, rough and tattooed, crying together, life found a way. Life always finds a way. Even in that gray hospital in Atlanta on that gray day on planet Earth. Beloveds, Easter reminds us we can always walk out of the tomb. Easter reminds us that spring follows winter. Easter reminds us that light follows dark. And even when it seems cold and love seems distant and far away, we can remember that love and faith are still in our hearts. We learn again and we walk again out of the tomb of our struggles into a life of grace and hope and giving, a creative power that shatters the icy tomb of this winter and the barren planets above, which still give us light and whispers, hallelujah. Life rises again to become new. Hallelujah and amen. Our closing hymn is number 123, Spirit of Life. Please rise in body or spirit. Diana Butler Bass said that there's a wildness to resurrection. You can't predict it. Life after death doesn't behave in any normal sort of way. Resurrection is the work of a feral spirit, as untamed and undomesticated as a possibility as human beings we can barely imagine, because it breaks all the rules. It breaks through the expectations and follows only freedom and love, even across the stars. Now this service truly begins, friends, but you'll want to sit down and enjoy the Postlude because it's going to be very good.
Thank you.